The movie begins with a boy named Sam watching videos on his laptop about the Samaritan. His mom barges in and asks him if he has any cash on him. She reminds him about the $5 that she gave him earlier. She tells him that after taxes it takes her an hour of cleaning bedpans just to make that $5. He hands it over with a smile on his face. His mom tells him to take the trash out, but he gets a little fussy because it's raining outside. He then takes out the trash in the pouring rain and proceeds to tag the dumpster with what seems to be a Samaritan logo. A stranger comes out of the building to throw trash in the bin. Sam gets spooked and hides behind the dumpster while peeking around the corner. He watches the man as he rummages through the trash and eventually pulls out a broken fan. The next day, we are shown the stranger walking to work with a little lunchbox in his hand. He works as a garbage man and seems to have fondness for taking broken crap out of the trash. Meanwhile, Sam is headed back home and notices the dickhead landlord put an eviction notice on the door and a lock on the handle. We now see Sam sitting outside on a slide doodling in his notepad. As the stranger walks by, he decides to strike up a conversation. He asks him why he's carrying around a broken radio, and the stranger asks Sam why he's wearing a broken watch. A kid that goes by the name of Jay rolls up and asks Sam if he wants to make some money. He knows that he just got evicted from his home and is desperate, so of course Sam agrees. They break into an abandoned house and strip the walls for the copper wires. The two boys take the wire down to a junkyard, owned by a man named Cyrus. This gang rolls up and harasses Jay, asking if he wants to do a job for them, but he refuses. Sam speaks up and says that he'll do it. They get Sam to put on fake blood, some hot sauce or some shit. They steal boxes of lottery tickets, but it appears the boxes were filled with chips, potato chips. Then Cyrus shows up. He finds Sam's journal about the Samaritan, while revealing he follows the Nemesis. He then gives Sam $100 so that he is in debt to him. Sam shows up at home while his mom is arguing with the landlord, and he gives her the $100 that he received from Cyrus. They make their way into the apartment, and his mom asks him what's on his forehead. He decides to tell her a bogus story instead of what really happened. We then see Cyrus getting a shipment of these gnarly looking grenades. The next day, Sam is walking down the street and comes across the gang he helped rob the store earlier. They end up chasing him and eventually catch up with him and start wailing on the poor kid. The stranger shows up and takes care of these low-level hooligans with ease, but one of them still has a little bit of fight left in him. He pulls a knife and charges him, but it does him no good at all because the stranger just grabs the knife by the blade. After seeing this altercation, Sam is convinced that this stranger is the Samaritan. Sam uses his binoculars to get a better glimpse of the neighbor, and his back looks like it was chewed up by a pack of wild boars. Sam makes his way to the stranger's room and takes mental notes of the name on the door. Now we're finally getting into some action as Cyrus and his gang are headed to the police station. They head over to the evidence locker and give the guard behind the counter one of the blackout bombs. When it goes off, it completely disintegrates him. Inside the locker, Cyrus finds a couple Nemesis helmets and this godlike looking hammer. Sam heads to the bookstore, which is run by the author that wrote The Samaritan, and he tells him that he thinks he found one. The author brings Sam to his apartment and shows him 20 years worth of research on the Samaritan. He shows him the knife that the Samaritan grabbed, but he doesn't believe Sam and sends him on his way. Sam sneaks into the Samaritan's apartment while he's at work. He discovers a scrapbook filled with articles all about the Samaritan, and he decides to jack it. The Samaritan sees that his scrapbook has been stolen and instantly knew who took it. He heads over to see Sam. He tells Sam that the Samaritan is dead, and he only has the scrapbook because he's a fan himself. The dude then gets smoked by a friggin' car and then starts snapping his bones back into place. Sam now knows that he is the Samaritan. Cyrus and his little gang of hooligans toss a blackout grenade into a manhole, resulting in a crowd forming and believing that Cyrus is the Nemesis. The Samaritan has nightmares of him fighting his brother Nemesis. On his way to work, he notices Sam following him and invites him to come along. They head to a pawn shop so that he can try to offload a camera. Sam asks him if he ever gets scared and run. He lets him know that that's the right thing to do, that street fighting is for fools. Why would you fight someone that has nothing to do with your life when they can end your life? The Samaritan asks Sam for his watch. He tells him that he'll try and fix it, but makes no promises. The next day, Sam asks the Samaritan if he will teach him how to fight. He is hesitant at first, but eventually agrees to help him. He doesn't really teach him that much about fighting. Sam tries to sucker punch him in the stomach, but hurts his hand instead. He tells Sam a story of what happened between him and Nemesis, and that Nemesis died. Cyrus runs into Sam and picks him up for a job. He tells him he's got to keep a lookout and whistle when he sees some coppers. Cyrus has a beaten up cop tied to a chair. He threatens him with fire, and then lets him go, but shoots him in the back while he's running away. Sam sees what he did and is terrified. He comes across his friend Jay getting beat up. He charges over to help him out, but gets overpowered pretty easily. The Samaritan checks up on him at the hospital. Cyrus's goons follow the Samaritan down an alley, and one by one he takes them all down, also while taking like 5 shots to the chest. One of the goons tosses a blackout bomb his way, and almost kills a little kid in the process. Sam tells the Samaritan that Cyrus has a plan to do something with the power stations, but he wants no part of it and just tells him to go to the police. Cyrus catches wind that the Samaritan lives, and that gets him pretty fired up. He then makes his way to the Samaritan's apartment to kill him. They barge in and just start laying firepower everywhere. He then spots Sam in the window across the street. They try to escape by heading to the roof, but they get trapped up there. Sam decks that kid again and tells Cyrus that the Samaritan is coming for him. The Samaritan goes to Sam's apartment to give him the watch that he fixed, only to be told by his mother that Cyrus took him. He grabs his garbage truck and begins filling the back with barrels of kerosene. He shows up at Cyrus's hangout and drives his truck right through the side of the building. He starts mucking up everybody in the vicinity, while getting riddled with bullets. Cyrus brings Sam out and confronts the Samaritan. He starts wailing on him with the hammer, which prompts him to have flashbacks of him having a fight with his brother. As Cyrus takes another swing, the Samaritan catches the hammer with his hand and tells him that he's not the good guy, he's the bad guy, revealing that he is actually the Nemesis. The Nemesis then goes berserk and starts going through the henchmen like they're nothing, snapping necks and cashing checks, just the usual. Cyrus takes off and grabs Sam on his way out, yelling at him, asking if he knew that that was the Nemesis. He ties up Sam and grabs the Nemesis mask. Meanwhile, the real Nemesis is making his way towards him. They hit the power grids and black out the entire city. Violent crowds start to fill the streets, and the looting begins. The Nemesis, while looking for Sam, runs into more goons. Then he friggin' runs full tilt through 4 walls. This guy is nuts. The streets are getting even more crazy and more violent by the minute. Sam is still handcuffed to the pipe, and the fires are roaring around him. The Nemesis finally reaches him, but drops his hammer for some reason, and Cyrus gets a hold of it. His heart starts to pound, and he can feel his body heating up. The two fight. Cyrus knocks the Nemesis down and is about to finish him, when suddenly Sam breaks free and cracks him in the back with the pipe. The Nemesis bends the hammer around Cyrus, creating a restraint, and then tosses him into the fiery pit. His body starts to burn up. Sam breaks a pipe and drenches him with water, which seemed to do the trick. He picks up Sam and leaps through the wall all the way to the other building. Sam asks him if he's really the Nemesis, and that he can change, but he just tells Sam that good and bad are in everyone's heart, and it's on you which one you choose. The movie ends with the Nemesis walking away and Sam being interviewed by the news. He tells the reporter that yes, it's true, the Samaritan lives, keeping the hope alive. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, drop a like and subscribe. Comment other film titles you'd like to see recapped. Bye bye.